Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second edition of the Creating Sanctuaries of Learning newsletter. I want to say, firstly, thank you for the warm feedback. It's been incredible to hear how you've been sharing our last interview with your colleagues. I really appreciate that. And if you're new here, this newsletter is designed to bring you the tools, strategies, and resources that you keep asking me for, including, connections with our favorite Dr. Amy Berry. So we're continuing our Driving School-Wide Engagement series with Dr. Amy Berry, but this time we're focusing on leading implementation. So starting with a clear vision, exploring how to build teacher capacity and sustain that work, and finally measuring the impact on student engagement in learning. Now, many of you attended the Rounds of Impact event we hosted last year, and a lot of you were inspired by Fork and Bridge Public Schools' journey with engagement. Today, I'm excited to bring back Dr. Amy Berry and introduce you to Chris Pine, the principal of Fork and Bridge Public School. Now, Chris began his teaching career in Western Sydney and has always been passionate about public education and the diversity it brings. Now leading the school where he was once a student himself, he's committed to driving student impact through the culture of both the classroom and the school. Outside of education, Chris is also a dedicated footballer, coach, and a mentor for athletes with cerebral palsy. So, yay! Thank you, Chris, for joining us, and Amy, so happy to have you here.
We sort of know that it is coming to life and moving beyond that phase of just being a poster on a wall when we can hear people having conversations across the school about engagement, when they're using that language and not just the adults using the language, in the staff room, but when children and staff are using the language within lessons and in the classroom. And that's
started with a conversation. And the conversation was with all the staff, and it sort of spawned from there. But what we do to maintain and keep driving that vision is to make it a school priority. So it is pretty much one of our strategic directions. So it's constantly being referred to, in strategic direction team meetings. It's constantly being adapted to the point where now we're sort of, we've got it in the classroom and we've got it as part of our reporting to parent cycle, which is which was very, very risky at the time, but it's paid dividends. It's all about having that the model within your school, but then adapting it to your context and being able to and driving it throughout the staff. But it was really driven by the teachers, and if you make it a priority in the school, and it was a massive priority for us, and we came up with videos and things like that. But also the teachers are there because Amy Berry speaks about having a partnership. And from that partnership, and we've driven heavily into the teachers to figuring out, well, what role do I play in this, and what role does the teacher have in this engagement cycle, as well as that of the student. So it's really this with both arms working together.
This has just showed it's such a good example to kind of dig into rather than me, going over the top of it. Like, this is a really great example. For one, I mean, he's just provided such a great model of partnership in action. As he said, I came to them with a problem and they came up with a solution. Well, I mean, what a great model for the teachers to then think about, all right, well, how can I apply that same thinking when I'm working in partnership with my learners? We're going to have challenges when it comes to supporting our learners. Learning is hard. And so what a great model for them to think, all right, well, how can I, instead of trying to fix their problems for them, my students, what about if I followed Chris's lead there and said, okay, I've got a problem, we've got a problem, and see what the children themselves might come up with as solutions to the problems. if we're going to move beyond this surface level, great, here's the continuum, here, let's put it on the wall, great, we're doing it. If we're really going to go deeper with it and realize the potential of it, then we need to help people to make connections with other things that we're doing. And so, you can hear him talk about connecting it in with their other initiatives and practices, language that they're already using in terms of PBL. So I think the schools that are really successful in pushing this forward are the ones that realize that's what needs to happen. We need to connect this in and integrate it in and embed it in what we're already doing.
Confidence. It's all about believing in them and believing in the direction that they want to take it. And that was really the first step that I took, and really, handing the reins over and going, yes, I'm the principal and I have, I have the responsibility and all that sort of stuff, but handing the reins over, going, listen, this is yours and this is what you're going to do in the classroom with this. This is what you're going to do with daily. I can lead it, but I'm not in the classroom. You guys are in the classroom. So what does it look like for you? How does the student move along those zones? And and then I talked about the role that each person plays, and then breaking it down further, which is what we did in strategic directions, and really making it. And so the team came together and made am I statements. So making it really, really easy, really user friendly in how you can use it in the classroom. So when it's not like you refer to it's not like you refer to a matrix and you go, well, this is the continuum, and this sort of thing. We've got am I statements. So am I doing this? Am I doing this? And making it really user friendly within the classroom, and being able to refer to it very quickly. It was all about building that language. The language needed to come first. So are you driving? Are you investing? Are you participating? And are you withdrawing? So, and having those 4 zones and really driving that in everything that we do in assemblies, in classrooms, in sporting events, and so we did it in every single aspect, and then giving that back to the parents and saying, well, this is what we use in the classroom, so that then they can use that at home with their students.
Recognizing that just like in any other classroom, your teachers as learners are going to be at different levels of readiness in terms of their understanding of this work, and also different levels of readiness in terms of readiness to engage with change and with taking on this work. As a leader, we need to understand our learners and work with them at their point of need. We need to see ourselves as their partner in learning and in engagement, and treat it that way. You're always going to have early adopters and people who are ready to drive from day one. And sometimes I have schools worry and say to me, we've got some teachers that, want to run with it and want to drive. Should we hold them back? You need those people who are motivated and confident and really eager to get things going, because they shine the way, the light for other people who need to sit back and see how it unfolds for other people first. So I think let them go. Identify who your early adopters and ready to drive people are, and really support them as best you can to lead the way. And then think about, you will always, have people who are quite resistant. And then we think about how we approach our learners in a classroom, our children learners. Well, if they're sometimes they're resistant to learn too. So we don't give up on them. We don't try to control them and force them. We instead work with them to try to understand what the roadblocks are for them. What is it that's getting in the way? Generally, it is, either a fear or an anxiety about something, doing it wrong, not being able to do it, having some sort of worry about the learning, or just feeling really like their tank is empty in terms of motivation and energy for change. And those are, very real things, but identifying what the root of the problem is and then working with them to try to address those challenges together is the best way, I think. I think the first thing is take stock of the evidence that you are already gathering, often things that you have no choice in doing, they're department things and whatever. So have a look at the things that you're already tracking and gathering. And, as a group, sit down and say, right, what does this tell us about the engagement of our students? Because there'll be something maybe in there that will, you'll be able to get some information about. But what's missing? What isn't it telling us that we might want to find out? So that's kind of the first step. Take stock of what you're already gathering, and make use of what you're already gathering as best you can. And then the next step is around this. Well, what else do we want to know? What impact do we want to see from this work? It's a bit like writing success criteria. What is success going to look like from all its different perspectives? So, one thing you might think about is in terms of doing walkthroughs. What would it look like if we were really satisfied that this was having a positive impact? And when we walk through classrooms and through the school, what would we expect to see and hear from the students? What would we expect to see and hear from the staff? And so, designing a walkthrough protocol that can allow you to gather evidence that way. That's one way. You can do things like, small focus groups with staff and with students, impromptu, asking a couple of questions to find out how their thinking has changed, how their confidence in themselves as a learner has changed. Again, thinking about, well, what would we expect to see as evidence of a positive impact if we talk to our students about using the continuum. So I think don't be afraid to design your own methods of gathering evidence of impact. Don't just, rely on surveys or things like that are already out there. Yes, they can be useful, but I think better to gather a range of different sources of evidence, because then you don't run the risk of missing something that's there, but you don't see it because you haven't picked the right tool.
Just so our third strategic direction, which is moved from school culture to classroom culture, and that's really where we want to be getting our most impact here at the moment. But the way that it's changed, the students at the start of this year have come back much more settled. I think, obviously, the zones have the zones. Our zones will have impact on that. But in terms of how is it, it's the language. It really is. It's about getting that language out there and being able to use that and not being afraid to use it in different and in every context. So, that's sort of the place in which we've come to. We've implemented it. We've sort of, it's part of our reporting. It's part of all of our cycles. We're thinking about moving into PBL and all that sort of thing. But now what we really need to do is go back and go, okay, students, like Amy was saying, students, is it working? And then adapt it based on what the students say.
I really thank you for your time, both of you. It's clear from our conversation that leading engagement school-wide is more than just posters on the wall or good intentions. It takes a shared understanding and vision, in that intentional implementation, and a commitment to really partnering with our students now, I'm thinking about, to measure our impact on their learning, their engagement in learning. Now, if you're looking at practical ways to deepen engagement at your school, I highly recommend checking out Amy Berry's currently free Engagement Hub, which is a space where we can access insights, stories from the wild, as she calls them, strategies, and connect with others who are doing this great work. I'm also going to include Amy's latest articles in the Teacher magazine in the resources section of our newsletter. They're just too good. These pieces offer insights and student perspectives on engaging learning at school, where they've surveyed nearly 1,300 prep to year 12 students and conducted 45 focus groups with 158 students. So there is a lot that we can learn. And I'm excited for your disengagement article coming out soon. You better
Oh,
send
yes.
it to me, Amy, as soon as it comes out. So I just recommend that you take a moment to read them and reflect on how, our students' perspectives can really align with our own approaches to engagement, leading engagement across our schools. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found this useful. Bye.